Okay, section 7, we're going to look at the vertebral or vertebral column. Vertebral column is composed of many separate vertebrae. All of your vertebrae are not shaped the same, so your lower lumbar vertebrae will be different than your upper cervical vertebrae. All of them are separated by a fibrocartilage disc. They're actually called intervertebral discs. Very important for cushioning, very important for protecting the bones and back pain. As people get older, sometimes these discs start to wear out and then bones will start to rub together, and that's where a lot of times people will actually have pain in the back. So if I look at my real human skeleton, you can see actually the discs here are in very good shape. Very flat, very uniform, still fairly thick. If someone has scoliosis where their back is not straight the way it should be, there'll be extra wear on that cartilage. So intervertebral discs separate each vertebrae from another and are very good at protecting one bone or one vertebrae from the next. Let's see. Vertebrae supports the head and trunk. It protects the spinal cord, so the spinal cord runs right down the center of the vertebrae. Anything else? Ligaments, a lot of ligaments are going to connect and extend from your vertebral column, also from your skull and other areas. A typical vertebrae is going to have a body, pedicles, laminae, and we'll look at a diagram and I'll point these out. The spiny process or spinous process, the vertebral foramen, remember foramen is an opening, transverse process, articular processes, and then the intervertebral foramen. So here if I look at my complete vertebral column, starting at the top, we have the cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, lumbar, sacrum, and coccyx. This makes up the entire vertebral column. Your vertebra prominence is the part that sticks out. So when you feel your backbone, that's the part that you're going to feel sticking out. Rib facet, only your thoracic vertebrae will have a rib facet because that's where your ribs are going to attach to your thoracic vertebrae. The discs, foramen are the side, intervertebral foramen are the side openings that you're going to see as you look along the side. And the other thing I want you to notice, if I am looking from the front, your vertebrae should be straight up and down. A person with scoliosis, this might curve out a little bit one way or another. Very common in teenagers, you very possibly might have scoliosis. So that would be a bend this way. If I'm looking from the side, you do have curvature. So it's called the cervical curvature, thoracic curvature. That is very important in holding your body up, supporting your body. Your body would not work, would not be able to support the weight if the vertebrae ran straight up and down from the side. So that curvature from the side allows it to basically support more weight. So breaking your vertebrae apart, cervical, neck, 7. There are 7 cervical vertebrae. They have a distinct transverse foramen, and then the first 2 vertebrae actually have names. So your very first vertebrae is your atlas, and your second vertebrae is your axis. So the importance of these 2, so I've taken the head off of this. So atlas is the top one, axis is the second one. So those are the first two cervical vertebrae. Your axis has some facets right where your skull is basically going to sit. It is going to meet up with the occipital condyles. So basically your skull is going to sit right on the top of this vertebrae, and that's where they meet up. So if I look and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are my 7 cervical vertebrae. Then I'll notice when I start with my first thoracic vertebrae, that's where my first rib is going to attach. Features specifically about cervical vertebrae, the spinous processes and the transverse foramen are a little bit different. So if I look at a picture, the bifid spinous process, it has bi meaning to, it looks like a notch actually at the top. So vertebral foramen, this is actually where your spinal cord goes through. And then your transverse foramen are those ones that we saw from the side. The body of any vertebrae is the main center part of it. And what I want you to notice is that the body will have different sizes for different types of vertebrae. So look at the body shape and size when you look at these different ones. Here specifically is the top. So if I'm looking at this would be the atlas, this would be the top one. Here's those facets where the skull is going to sit. Notice it doesn't really have that bifid process. It doesn't stick out quite as far. Moving on. So numbers I expect you to know. There's 7 cervical, there's 12 thoracic. Your thoracic vertebrae articulate with the ribs, and they're going to start to get bigger. Quick, I'm recording.
These or the other
Ask
ones?
Catherine. I just visited with Catherine. So thoracic vertebrae are the 12 that are going to attach to your ribs. They're larger and stronger, so even if you look, you can see they get a little bit bigger. And they have very pointed spinous process on the back. I don't know why I have a piece of tape there. But the spiny process on the back points out quite a bit further. That's probably the most important part. They attach to the ribs. Large spiny process. You can see that it sticks out far. So here's the body. If I'm looking at a vertebrae, I'm going to have the body, the vertebral foramen again, where the spinal cord goes through. Here, my lamina is like this thick part right here. Transverse means side. So transverse process is going to go out to the side. Spiny process is the part of your spine that you feel. So transverse means side. Make sure you know where those are at. Lumbar, there's 5. This would be your lower back. These basically are going to support the weight of your back. They probably take the brunt of your body weight. So that's going to be these lower ones as we get towards the bottom. And there's 5. If you've ever had anything wrong with your back or maybe have listened, they're labeled like L1, L2. So lumbar 1, lumbar 2. C1, C2. Cervical 1, cervical 2. When you talk about vertebrae, that's how they are labeled. So when I get to my lumbar vertebrae, my body is going to be big because it supports a lot of weight. The vertebral foramen actually starts to taper off because your spinal cord is going to taper off as it gets to the bottom. Transverse along to the side again, lamina, the support in the middle, and then your spinous process off to the back again. These articular processes are where they are going to attach, or where there's a notch for the other vertebrae that they attach to. And then the bottom, the sacrum, triangular structure. Basically, it's 5 fused vertebrae into one. Here, I probably won't have you label so much on the sacrum. It does have a foramen, canal, the hiatus, but I probably won't have you label so much here. Coccyx is your tailbone. It's a small little part at the bottom. It's the lowest part, and the coccyx is actually 4 fused vertebrae. So sacrum 5, coccyx 4. So if I look at the pictures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my sacrum. Here's the sacral foramen along the side. And then here, my coccyx is my tailbone. 1, 2, 3, 4 fused vertebrae make up that part. And like I said, as far as labeling, I will probably not have you label the sacrum, other than know the entire bone itself. And I will stop there.